Hi, guys. Welcome back to Hear Our Voices. This is the fourth chapter of Michael Jackson's story. I hope you're enjoying it so far. So, before we get into anything, please follow us on all our social media platforms. If you can't follow us on everything, pick one or two. It'll be great. If you want to do YouTube and then you want to do, because you see me there on YouTube, you actually see my face on YouTube, right? And if you want to do Instagram or Twitter, either or, I think Instagram and Twitter could kind of have almost the same effect, So if you want to pick those two platforms, it would be great. And also, we put out different things on there, resources. We put out example for jobs or baby clothes or people who have like community baby showers, things like that. So if you're a person who knows somebody who needs it, or you're a person who actually needs those kind of resources, definitely go check us out on those platforms. And if you're on those platforms and just want to share your stuff out, because you never know, people hide things very well. So you not know they might have they have a need that you don't know about. So go check it out and tell us what you think. So if you have any ideas for the podcast, too, any topics you would like us to cover, what we didn't cover yet, we have other things in our pipeline. Don't get us wrong. We have a lot of little things coming up for season 4. Can you believe it? We made it this far, but we have a lot of things for season 4. So go check it out and see what we have for season 4. So sit back, relax. Oh, yeah, let me get some snacks because it's a podcast. You can't see my face. And all you got to do is listen and kind of, just listen to what we are here to enlighten you with, right? Get some popcorn, get some snacks, and chill out, a little bit. And talk to you next week will start season 4, so go check that out too. Anyway, guys, thank you. Bye. I think a lot of things we need to work on right now. I feel like New York City, honestly, shouldn't just be. I don't know if other states do this. We have so much different categories. Now we have the Hercs because of the migrants coming in. I feel like we need to cut the categories out.
Yes.
I feel like it's so annoying going to the government for each. Oh, the youth need more housing or more vouchers. Then we go for the next month. We're going. The families need more vouchers. Then we go for men.
Yes.
No, can we just put it all in one category?
Yep.
So everybody can get the vouchers. So they go. It's like you have to advocate for so many things for the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the truth is that most people don't fall cleanly in these categories. Most people overlap these categories. You might be a young person who's a veteran, also in the LGBT community, also dealing with a disability, right? But oftentimes I think, and this is kind of my cynical side, right, is these categories and boxes and these bureaucratic hoops are created because they want you to give up, right? The truth is that
That's true.
They don't want to fund the programs. Okay, if everyone who qualified for public assistance applied for it and got it,
right,
they would probably have to double the budget.
They would have, yes,
and
sure.
They don't want to do that, right? Because middle class people don't want their taxes raised because whatever, right?
Right.
And so they create these sort of hurdles because they know a certain number of people are just going to give up. And that's going to minimize the number. And so a lot of this like categorization, I think, is designed to wear you down to the point where you're just like, well, forget it. I'll just figure something out.
Right.
Right. I'll sell drugs. I'll, sell candy on the subway. I'll try to come up with some kind of hustle. Because going through the legitimate channels is just too much work. And I think if you ever want to see that, if you look at when I was growing up, I used to think bureaucracy, because all the bureaucracy I knew growing up was for poor people. It's the welfare office or the food stamps or whatever. And I thought bureaucracy was inherently just like unwieldy and like all these levels and all this paperwork and whatever. If you ever want to see that it's not so, go to a bureaucracy that's made for rich people or just people with money, right? Go to Disney World.
Oh my
Right?
God.
Disney World is a bureaucracy. Millions of people come into Disney World and they never stand in line, and the system is seamless, and they make sure everybody's room number and their credit card matches. They never lose your paperwork. Right? Because they know, because the clientele is a clientele that they respect, right? Go to, anything that has to go to a hotel for rich people and then go to a hotel for poor people and look at how it's
Yeah.
just a different thing, right? So it's not a matter of they can't do it. It's a matter of
You won't do it.
priorities and whether or not they value the people who they are dealing with, right? I mean,
Right.
even within like Medicare and Medicaid, right? Medicare is for if you're older of any income, healthcare for if you're older of any income. Medicaid is just for poor people.
Right.
And if you have Medicare, you get treated better
Mm.
than if you have Medicaid.
Wow.
If
I didn't
you
know that.
have, yeah, if you have, Social Security, just Social Security is for everyone over 65. Like Bill Gates gets Social Security.
Mm.
Elon Musk, when he's
There
over
must be some
65, will get
good,
Social
some
Security.
good money right there.
Right.
I can
But
imagine.
SSI and SSDI
Right.
is for poorer people or disabled people.
Right.
And if you get Social Security, you get treated much better than if you get SSI, even though it's like, right?
Right.
So, some of it is a matter of um, it's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of value. Back to this idea of worth and dignity, and um, how much dignity they ascribe to you. Which is why things like the whole joke about Karens, white Karens that go into the
Yes.
store and like I want to speak to the manager, right?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why in our mind that Karen is a white woman, middle-aged white woman,
Right.
it's because if you're a young person of color and you ask to see the manager, what's going to happen? Right?
But
Like,
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a person on the phone and in person. If
yeah,
you acting crazy, I'm
you
acting from
should.
energy. Like you the little man, bro. I need to talk to somebody
Yes,
higher
and
up.
you
Because
should, and you
damn.
should, right? And you should. And
Right.
the other thing is like how we train ourselves to deal with this stuff. Like if you are a middle class white person, um, you are trained in how to navigate, like how to ask for the manager, how
It's
to write
true.
write to the corporate office, go
Right.
to the community board meeting
Be
at
annoying.
the right. Yeah, like they are taught very young, like
Yeah.
here are the levers of power,
Right.
and this is the people you have to do. Go to your assembly person or whatever.
Right.
Um, and we aren't taught those skills.
That's the thing.
And
Mhm.
we're just taught, well, yeah, well, you know how they're gonna do you. You just have to take it, right?
That's the thing.
Yeah. So we
Advocacy
need,
is important. That's
yeah,
the
we all
thing.
need to be more caring, like
Right.
in the
Yeah.
positive way.
It might be, yeah, in the positive because Karen could go to the left real fast. But if you think about it, I never thought about Karen being an advocate for herself. Like
Yes,
I just never thought of it that way. But in a way, not every attribute of her is amazing. But being an advocate for yourself, speaking up for
yes,
yourself, making
yeah,
sure what is happening, if you don't like it, is wrong, and say
yes.
something about it, that's
Yeah,
an important skill to have.
sometimes what they're advocating may not be a good thing, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like the
For
woman
sure.
in Central Park that called the cops on the bird watcher because he told her to put the leash on her dog, right? But
Wow.
she was advocating for herself. She was doing it in a sort of loathsome way,
Right.
but she wasn't just like taking it. She was saying, these are the things I want. I'm going to find the means to get people in power to do the thing to get me the things that I want, right?
Right.
And to do not only, we need to know like how to do that, but more importantly, I think we need to understand that we're worth that and that is like that's bare minimum. Like
Exactly.
advocacy is what you're supposed to, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Right? But yeah, and we have to be, when you finally do that, like all of this is a heavy lift, right? Understanding
Right.
your worth, not blaming yourself, being kind to yourself, learning the levers of self-advocacy and what works and what doesn't work. You know, if you go into the HRA office and you try to grab the lady behind the counter by
Oh
the neck, well,
no. Can you
that's
imagine?
self-advocacy, but that's bad, right?
It is. Don't do that,
Um,
guys. Violence is
don't
not
do that,
nothing.
right? Don't do that. Um, but all of that's a heavy lift. But the other part of it is you have to be ready for the pushback, because when you do that, don't think that just because you've done the work of sort of learning all this stuff and feeling valued, that the system or the people in power are just going to be like, oh, no, there's going to be pushback.
Always
And
is.
there's going to be like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, what? what what are you doing? And you have to be ready for that, and you have to have, ways to combat that. The other thing I will say, and I want to make sure that I mention this too, is like there's this thing, this African philosophy is called Ubuntu. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's Ubuntu. And it basically is a philosophy that says, I am because you are. It talks
Mm,
about that we all have value, not just in ourselves by ourselves, but because of our positioning and our connectedness to other people. Like we have to understand that none of us get through life by ourselves. None of us achieve
true.
anything. There's nothing in your life you've ever achieved by yourself, whether you know it or not, right? Right? It's a different story. Like whether you know people were helping you or not is a different story.
That's true.
But you have to like reach out to people and ask for help and understand that you can't do it all by yourself. This is not, Rocky, all our American movies, Rambo, all of these,
Oh,
the
Rocky.
single, the single guy does all the, Dirty Harry, right? It's very American. Right, right. And sometimes like we convince ourselves that real life is like that and that we could just like buckle down and try real hard and want it bad enough. Well, no, you have to use networks, you have to get help, you have to go to people when you feel overwhelmed and say, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what the fuck. I have to be able to say that and be okay with saying that.
Right.
And to know the people that you can say that to that will be helpful for you, that won't just look at you and go, oh, well, I don't know what you're going to do.
Right.
Um, and so I want to make sure that people who lived in this experience and who are going through this stuff or may go through this stuff get that we all need each other. Um, so yeah.
That is for sure, for sure. We all are connected. And I'm a person who I was that person. I was Rocky. I was like, I gotta
Oh
fight
yeah.
through it myself and getting
All
it
right.
through. But honestly, especially being homeless, you have to rely on a lot of systems just to survive. I was working most of the time, but sometimes when I wasn't working, I have to rely on welfare more heavily because it's like, they if you don't know how much they give you, it ain't that much. So to live on
No.
it is already is a struggle. But because I wasn't working, I did get a quarter and a half more, a
Yeah.
little bit something like that. And I have to rely on the social system. I have to rely
Yes.
on workers. I have to rely on all these systems I don't want to rely on. And I ask myself, how did I get here? Like
Yes.
I had my daughter in the hospital homeless. I'm like, I brought you into the world and you're homeless. I felt
Yeah.
so bad. Like I
Yes.
feel as a mom and you just got here. Like you
Yes.
literally popped out of me and I'm
Yes.
I'm feeling already.
Yep.
So I learned to have to rely on things. Obviously, I rely on God the most out of
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
because he can bring me the furthest out of life. But I had to rely on these systems that are put in place to help me. And one thing I can tell you about the system, if you don't know how to do certain things, ask questions, but also make sure if you think the question that don't sound right, ask somebody else because
Hmm.
it might be people have their different views on things and some people don't want to tell you the information, they're gatekeeping on information, or they tell you a lie about something when they're supposed to be actually helping you. Like
Yes.
I was in the hospital, somebody said, oh, I don't have a place to go. Instead of
Hmm.
helping me to get in the shelter, they said, we're gonna take your baby. I'm confused. All I need is housing. All I need is somewhere to go. Because the thing about it, when I went to PATH and I was pregnant, they said, no, you can't come in.
Yes.
If I got the hospital workers to help me properly, I could have probably gotten to path much faster and got help
Yes.
much faster and sooner if they did their job. But no,
Yes.
first word. Oh, ACS.
Yep.
Can I breathe for a sec?
Yeah. I'm a bad parent because I'm in the hospital. Yeah. 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 No, I had a situation at when we were still, I think they had it's just before they had moved us into the shelter. We were still in this apartment and the lights are out. Like I lived in the apartment. We lived in the apartment for 2 months with no electricity.
How you charge your phone?
We went to a library,
Oh,
and a hospital, right? And I was working at the time. Like I was working as a writer, like remotely. And
right.
so I literally had to go to the lobby of the hospital to hook up to the internet to do
No.
the research, to turn it into my boss,
Oh
right?
my
And I was
gosh.
too ashamed to tell my boss, "Oh yeah, I don't have electricity." Like how garbage does that sound, right?
Wow.
But anyway, I went to get a city FEPS housing voucher, right? And I went to Bronx Works, and I finally found it. I went to one agency, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're in the wrong zip code. We can't help you."
That's
um,
amazing.
with no alternative, just we can't help you. And so
Right.
anyway, I went down to this office, Bronxworks, to get the city voucher, and was told, first of all, can we just say, what is the deal with these agencies to help the poor? Like only opening for like 3 hours at like 7 o'clock in the morning,
Oh
and you
my
gotta
gosh.
got to line up for 2 hours beforehand, and like I don't understand what that ain't enough chairs, so you got to stand up. I don't
It
get that.
got worse after COVID though. Before COVID, it
Yeah,
wasn't that bad.
and
I
this
used to
was
be at
before
some of those
COVID.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
it's
before COVID?
really, yeah, this is before COVID, and it's
Oh
really weird. Like
wow. Mind
again,
blowing.
this goes to like the treatment of the poor, right? Like,
Right.
oh well, we don't open all day. We only open for 3 hours, and you got to line up, and we're only gonna anyway. So I go down there, and um, they're like, well, are you in the military? Were you in the military? And I'm like, no. Okay, well, we only give out city vouchers to people that were in the military, so you don't qualify. And I was real dejected, like, man, and I go home, go to the hospital to get on the internet on my little phone
Right.
and go to their website
Right.
and look at the qualifications for the voucher.
Right.
Nowhere in there does it say you have to be a veteran. Nowhere.
Wow.
And and I'm thinking, well, and I had been trained as a researcher, right? And
Right.
so I'm trying to find the information. I'm like, well, maybe I'm looking wrong, and I'm digging and digging and digging. And I finally find the actual qualifications for what you need. And I realized that I qualified,
Right.
right? And this person had told me bull faced, oh no, if you're not a veteran, you can't get it. So I went back, I printed out the qualifications for the
Right.
voucher
As you should.
and went back 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And went to a different person, and they again told me, oh yeah, it's only for veterans. So then I pulled out the paper and said, well, this is from your website.
Right.
They looked at it with surprise. They
Mhm.
didn't know. So here's this person who's a gatekeeper and a caseworker for
Right.
people qualifying for housing vouchers, right? Very serious position, people in very dire situations.
Right.
This person, and it was two different people, right? The person that told me first and the person I went back to.
Right.
So somehow in their training, they're not even training their people what the
Properly.
qualifications are,
Right.
right?
An important thing
So,
for housing. Oh,
oh my God. And and that goes to the self-advocacy thing. Like
right.
I I think all the time as I was going through this, what about people who English is not their first language?
Oh, yeah.
Or people who, have less than a high school education. I mean, I was able to find this stuff online. There's people who don't know how to work the internet
Right.
or find this stuff, right? Like I have good English skills. I have good sort of like, research skills, and it was hard for me. And I
Right.
think about, all of these people, what about you're coming from a war zone, trying to get a refugee, and
Right.
you came across the border and barely survived, and
Barely.
now they want you to come up with all kinds of documentation. You're like, dude, I just came out of a refugee camp.
Right.
I don't even speak the language. So, when we think about these things and the hurdles that we face, I consider myself, lucky in many ways to have, some skills to be able to, and even with the skills that I have, it's tough for me.
Right.
And I remind myself, I was lucky that my son was an adult at the time and that he could process this stuff. God
Right.
forbid if he was 1, 2, 3 years old and
Oh
I
my
had to have
God.
him with diapers and all, it was hard enough him being an adult and having to manage this stuff.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we need to have those people in mind and just demand better treatment for ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, for sure, for sure. He hit on a lot of different stuff in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something
I could
from
talk about this stuff forever.
if you want him to come back on, we could definitely have him for a second episode. I just want you to take away from this podcast that advocacy is a thing. Now everybody
Yes.
fits in categories also, but we need to find a way as us as our community and all people who are listening to us who are lawmakers that we need to open those categories up to make sure that everyone who needs help can fit in those categories. Because
Yes.
it makes no point to have people who are homeless, but yet they don't fit in the part, so they're not getting help. It doesn't make any sense
Yeah, no.
to do things like that. So
No, it's
for
crazy.
sure. Yes.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for having
And
coming
uh
on.
and yeah, and thank you for just having this platform. I think that, like we talked about, there's sometimes a lot of shame around this stuff. And so having this platform where it can come into people's homes and they can hear this stuff and not have to worry about judgment or whatever and seek this sort of conversation out is really good for people. And you may never know all the people who you've helped with this. So it's just trickling out there in the universe. You may never
Right.
know the total number. So.
With his background with the universe behind him. So it's like the galaxies.
Thank you again. You guys have a great day.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you guys. Talk to you next week. And if you want to join the podcast, definitely email us. If you want to talk to me directly, because we have other teammates and we have a new fellow, so she's coming on soon.
Awesome.
They watch, they look at the DMs. So if you want to talk to me directly, my information will be in the link tree down below. I think it's literally the last thing on it because my stuff is not as important as having the actual podcast and the resource packet. So you can find my information down below. You can talk to me personally on my
Oh,
Instagram.
and you know what? I'll give you my Twitter or whatever, and you can put it
Yes,
down there as well if
for
people want
sure.
to see me on Twitter or whatever. Okay?
Yes. So his link will be down below. After we finish this, I edit it in. And we'll put all of those things down below, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being amazing. And we see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
That's great.
Hold on. Was it gonna stop? No, it's not. I got a lot of editing.